Welcome to the Catholic Leadership Network podcast, helping ministry leaders succeed from the beginning, with your co-hosts, Christy Cabanis and Sarah Jarzembowski.
Before that.
Because we basically just went through the whole podcast in our introduction of each other and kind of getting chill here, but I'm sure that the Spirit's going to bring us more stories, Darrin, with all of your work. So let me say hello to everyone who is listening on our podcast here. This is the Catholic Leadership Network, where we talk about all the things no one talked about in Catholic ministry. And we are here today with Darrin Nelson. He is one of our returning guests. Darrin began his work in full-time ministry in 1998, working with various parishes, pastors, and diocesan committees focused on parish life strategic planning. That's awesome. That's what we want to hear about, that strategic planning and working with pastors. For the past 10 years, his passion has been helping Catholic parishes foster discipleship and evangelization. Through his podcast, he desires to share stories about Catholics awakening to a personal relationship with Jesus Christ and provide conversations around parish evangelization initiatives and the various challenges pastors and leadership face moving parishes into mission. Yes, let's move us forward. He believes there's always a story to be discovered. I love storytelling. This is great. Thanks for coming back, Darrin.
Thanks,
we
Darrin.
Really appreciate it. We want to hear all your stories. You were telling us some stories before we even got on recording today. So we're looking forward to what you have next here.
I'm just excited. I'm just excited that you asked me to come back. I mean, thank you so much. It's like, I really appreciate that. And just, I always look forward to the conversations with you guys because they're so much fun. So I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
Well, that's what we hope for. Sometimes ministry can really get heavy.
Yeah.
And it's like all about the task and all about the thing and, making sure the sacraments, sacraments can be heavy, and sometimes we just get bogged down in the heaviness of the power of the work that we do, but the fruit of the Spirit is joy, so we also have to remember that God works in our laughter. And so I always look forward to these conversations as well, because Christy's a really good friend and we laugh together, and then we have our respective friends come on and people that we know, and the laughter abounds, especially when it comes to some hard topics like working with pastors. I have a new pastor, so I have a new guy. I'm just learning. I had just gotten comfortable with the guy who hired me, and now we have a new guy. So it's like this transition, and sometimes it can be angsty.
Yeah.
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 We're here to bring the fun.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And it's so true what you said, Sarah, where we can kind of get caught up in the busyness, and we got to get things going, and we lose sight of the very call of, we're here for the mission, right? We're here to really help people hear the gospel message in a way that's going to awaken their hearts. And if we, I try to keep that at the heart of my listening to a pastor, because even any one of us, whether it be a pastor or a ministry leader or a staff person, I believe we all desire to want to do a good job. And so we really focus on how can we do a really good job and get focused on that. And I think sometimes in parish life, we lose sight of the fact that we're called to be missionary. We're really called to help spread the gospel message. And what does that look like in my life today, right now? I just love Pope Francis when he talks about spiritual accompaniment, that we have to be people of prudence and listening, and so I always try to bring that to try to bring that to what it is I'm doing, speaking with a pastor or ministry leader. So, but yeah.
Well, and the gospel message is simple. right? I mean, and what Jesus was asking us to do is simple but hard at the same time. It's to find God in the people that we work with and to see Christ amongst us, and we're not perfect and they're not perfect, and that's where that tension comes in. I was working with some First Reconciliation students last night, first time they were getting together, and I said to them, try. That's really all we need to do, because if we try and we move one step forward towards Jesus, Jesus is going to take 3 steps towards us, right? We don't have to be perfect. We have to try, So I just think that, the gospel message, we make it hard sometimes.
Yeah. And something that's really been and this goes to the work, and I know you got questions that we want to get to. Something that has really become very significant in my life, and this happened with the awakening of my journey as a disciple with Christ, this awakening that I had back in 2006, 7, 8, somewhere in that time frame. And is every morning, and I understand some people have different points in the day. Like some people aren't morning people. I'm a morning person.
Who's that?
I do get up at 5 o'clock. I look forward to my cup of coffee and my time with the Lord, my time with Christ. Every morning I get up and he centers me. Every morning I read the now this morning I didn't read the daily gospel, but I read the daily gospel. What I did read was I'm part of a retreat tomorrow, and I'm doing a Lectio. So I reflected on that reading, and and I read commentary, and I open up my heart to the Lord and to the Holy Spirit. And there's a whole prayer routine that I go through, an encounter, really. It's an encounter. And I have found that is what really leads me in my life, so when I'm sitting with a pastor or sitting with a ministry leader and things seem to be a little tough, I lean on the Lord. I open up my heart to the Holy Spirit and I just say, Lord, help me here. I desire, so that has become extremely important. And I think that is, I don't know, a very important part of my life and the ministry work that I do.
Yeah, I think actually that sets us up for a perfect segue, Darrin, because I think that using the gospel message and knowing what it is helps us to have the source and somewhat of the food, I would say, like to get us energized towards this journey. And that's what we're talking about today is actually the action plan that comes out of when we kind of reflect with the gospel and know what our mission is. And then there's work that needs to be done as a result of that. So we wanted to talk today a little bit about how do we start to put plans into action, because we talked about planning with you when you were here last time. And so one of the first things that kind of came up for me is I know that you're big on understanding the pastor's vision and getting clear on what that is. When you've met with a pastor and have had those discussions and you feel like you're clear on what his vision is, how do you start to formulate your own action plan from that? And are there any kind of I don't think it's a step-by-step, but you know what I mean? Like, can you give us any practicals on that?
Yeah, so a word that just came to my mind that I always want to make sure we keep in front of us is transformation, right? The gospel message is, I enter into the gospel message because I desire to be transformed by the Lord. I think every pastor has a vision that they want their parish to be a place where hearts are transformed by the gospel message, right? So what I do, and I hear that once we get to that point, right? Once we're able to formulate the vision he has for the parish, And that vision, again, is just so maybe listeners didn't listen to that. The vision is the big picture. It's the why. And I always start by articulating that vision with the pastor by saying, what's your hope, right? What's your hope? And we start drilling it down. And the other thing I think it's important to remember too, and again, probably another conversation, is the vision will change. The mission will not change. The mission for what we do as Christians and Catholics will not change, but the vision will, and oftentimes, like there's one pastor right now, we're speaking about a vision for the next year and a half, maybe 2 years, and we have started to outline that. Another pastor I'm meeting with this afternoon, we're creating a vision that he wants to do for a year that will then, after that year, we'll create another vision. But the mission is the same, right? The mission's always the same.
Yeah.
So once we get that vision, we start to articulate, okay, what's the mission statement? Now that you have the why and the hope, what you want to do, whether it's, I'm gonna keep it a real simple vision, so to speak. I want to help my leadership understand a better collaboration. Maybe that's a vision, a better collaboration to help the mission. Right. And I think that's a hope of many pastors, but also at the same time, I think a lot of pastors are doing a great job with that. They are, but there's people who want that. So once we have that, now we have a mission statement, and the mission statement really, it defines the objectives of how to realize the vision. Right. So, and so it's like, I'll give you an example. Here's a mission statement that a pastor may have. Our parish lives in the hope of Christ to accompany you in your faith journey so you can awaken to a deeper relationship with the Lord and encounter the sacramental life of the church. Okay? So there's the mission statement of what our parish is. Now you have to break down that mission statement into objectives, right? That's what I do with the pastor. Okay, if your parish desires to do this, we now have to start breaking down ways in which we can meet with, encounter, help foster your leadership that understands the vision and also can grow in the vision and also can evaluate their ministries in a way that reflects the vision, right? So that's the, in my brain, so to speak, those are the things that are happening. Okay, now that we have the vision and the mission statement, now we have to help the leaders understand that vision.
Yeah.
Right, does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and so the words that I use, pastoral planning, pastoral strategic planning, there's other people or consultants or whatever use a little bit different verbiage, but really that pastoral plan I do is around that vision, and it's about creating a pathway that will guide that leadership in a way which begins to achieve smaller objectives, which eventually lead to the realization of the vision. So I really believe you have to start breaking it down with the pastor and create a journey.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's, once I have that vision, now we start breaking it down in that way and speaking to how do we now address the leadership so that they understand the vision and start forming them with it.
Yeah. And then they can kind of develop sort of what the direction of that's going to be, which then would lay out that action plan for you, right?
Yeah, we do it. I do it. I have us do it together, right? So I have them hear the pastor's vision and in some way guide them to reflect on how they see themselves being a part of this pathway. And I do two things in that. One, which I always feel is very important, provide formation that helps them grow in discipleship.
Mhm.
Because it's all about the mission, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And disciples, it should be discipleship driven, right?
Absolutely.
Meaning disciples, missionary disciples, right?
Yeah.
So always some type of formation about discipleship. And then articulate in the pastor's vision in a way that allows them to grapple with how that vision is to be lived out through their ministries. And they need guidance in that.
Sure.
Right. So that's why I say I always create a pathway, a journey, which happens. And that's I don't know if we use that word, strategic planning, pastoral planning.
Everybody loves those words these days, Darrin, though.
Yeah.
You guys, anybody that's just listening to our podcast and not got the video aspect of it going on, Sarah just like her eyes literally went up into her bangs somewhere. I don't know if they were still attached or not, but I have a coffee cup. I'm not drinking out of it today that says insert eye roll here, but that's basically the emoji right now for you guys, so you know.
Yeah, I just had a little twitch there.
She doesn't like trendy. That's not Sarah's game.
Yeah.
So.
It's kind of not. It's kind of not.
And there's something I'm just thinking about as you guys are having fun there. I'm like, my brain is like really spinning right now. Over the summer, Renew International has approached me, and I've been doing some work with them now. And they gave me a big title. I'm now like their senior manager for strategy. And and so I'm doing some great work with Parish Catalyst. This guy John, I mean, he's just fantastic. And what we're really talking about is to use the word process, right? So I use the word pathway, is process. And we really need that guidance, I believe, like parishes, and there's a lot of great organizations who are helping parishes do this, right? Divine Renovation does it. Parish Catalyst does it. So, and others out there. We really need this process, because if it's not there, then the ministries do the ministries. The pastor has a vision, and the pastor does his work, and nothing really gets moved forward. It just remains active. That's what I have found. That's my experience, right?
Yeah.
And when I talk to pastors about that, they all agree. When I talk with ministry leaders about that, some will agree and some won't, because they see their ministry as a ministry. Right. And rightly so. Bible study is a Bible study. But what tends to happen is the Bible study is, and I always pick on Bible studies. I love Bible studies, but I always pick on them. It's like they're bad guys. They're not bad guys. But they kind of just run without the vision in mind. And that's what I try to help strengthen at a parish, is a collaboration where the ministry leaders do understand the vision and that they are a part of that. I may have mentioned this last time, Tim Glenkowski's book, Made for Mission. I love some of the verbiage he used in that book and in some of the videos on Revive Parish. How does your ministry align with the pathway of discipleship? That's a great reflection.
Yeah.
Just if every ministry in your parish sat down and spoke about that, it would draw them into a conversation about, here's how mine does, how does yours, and how does yours, and then to start saying, well, let's start thinking about this pathway. So I think I might have gotten off a little bit of a tangent there, but anyway.
That's okay. That's totally fine.
I get a little passionate about this.
Yeah. Sarah, I think
that's really fantastic. So I like I said, I have a new pastor coming in And what are some things that I can do as a leader to really understand his vision? Because I'm not 100% sure I ever asked him about it. I'm not really sure he's explained it. I think that some of it's been sprinkled out there, but what do you find are some good things, best practices, whatever word you want to say, when you have transitions like that in leadership?
Yeah. Well, I whenever I'm in that situation, I always start with just what I said earlier, Sarah, is what's your hope? Like, I just want to be a human with him for a few moments. Like, what's your hope? And most of the time, pastors are going to say, my hope is to better engage the parishioners. My hope is to draw people back to church. My hope is that the religious ed will grow. My hope, like, okay, great. In what way can I help you do that? In what way can I help you do that? Now, and this is I'll be honest with you, for me, it's a hard question to answer, Sarah, because every pastor is a little bit different. And if I'm in front of the pastor, I can, kind of play off of his personality, but when you find what really is tugging at his heart, something specific, that's where I tend to focus in on helping him start to develop a vision for the parish, and then start to develop some type of pastoral planning. So I'll give you an example of something that happened over the summer, where I was invited by Renew to go meet with a pastor who's new. He was new at the right when the pandemic hit. And the parish has many challenges, one in which a school was closed, and like a lot of challenges. And he had gone through this parish catalyst process, and in that he had asked if someone could come and sit with him, because he would like some help. So I went and I listened, and I discovered what his biggest challenge was and hope was, and it was to engage the parishioners in a way to help build trust with him, because he was a new pastor and there were some challenges from the old administration. So what we're starting with, where we're starting, is by doing some parish gatherings. It's a fun little thing that I like to do, where I'm going to interview him. Like, we're going to sit and we're going to have like an interview and just ask him about his childhood, ask him about, why he became a pastor and stuff like that. But to develop these opportunities where the parishioners can come and learn about him, and then share with one another what their joys and challenges are at the parish, so that he can hear that. So now what we're doing is we're allowing the parishioners to help us start to develop some type of pastoral plan as well, because we're hearing what they desire, what their challenges are. And I know some pastors are going to probably kind of be a little wary of that, because we can't always create a plan to address, some of the things that make people upset, right? But it is a way to start developing and hearing and understanding what the needs are of that particular parish.
Sounds like a synodal path. It sounds like really what we've been talking about in the greater church of synodal listening.
Yeah.
I think that's something else that would come out of that, Darrin. My just thought process is, because I'm going to finish one sentence and then go on to the next. Sorry, guys.
Maybe.
So what I'm thinking is, one of the good things that would come out is that the pastor could then start to see who this parish actually is. Because if you step out of kind of what they're fussing and complaining about, or if they say that there's problems, you can start to see like what is important to them and where is their focus. So then you can sort of see the pastor be able to take what his hopes and dreams and visions are for how he wants to lead in ministry and apply that to the particular needs and desires of that parish. Because what I've seen has been some guys that come in and just try to blanketly say like, this is how I do it, this is what's going to happen here, without attention to the gifts and abilities and needs of a particular community. And to me, that's sort of like that whole, I think it's a Dr. Seuss saying about like, if you tell a fish that they can't climb a tree, that they're dumb or something like that. Like there's different needs for different communities, and each parish is almost like a person in that it's got gifts and caveats and needs, you know what I mean, that vary from place to place.
Yeah, one of the things that I have been doing for years that I just have found to be so effective are these, I've called them various things, ministry leadership gatherings over the course of the year. I always have 3 to 4 ministry leadership gatherings. And we do that for various reasons. But we do that, we provide those so that it provides the opportunity for the pastor to always put in front of the ministry leaders the vision, and also allow the ministry leaders to be able to speak about the vision and how it's happening within their ministries. And also it provides an opportunity for us to talk about big parish initiatives that we are doing to support the vision as well. So it's like a 3-tier thing. You know, the pastor's vision is always being put forth, evangelization initiatives that have come from strategic pastoral planning, retreat days, or, you know, that pastoral council and leadership create. You know, there's those initiatives are being spoken about and heard by the ministry leaders. And so always 3 to 4 of these meetings throughout the year to bring the ministry leaders together for this particular reason, to help the vision continue to be moved forward. Now, one of the great questions that you asked is, how can we continue to develop a ministry plan as times and people change? You know, things change. They should change. Why? Because the Holy Spirit is going to be transforming us, right? So therefore, that's the change, right? And these gatherings are one of the ways in which we can speak to the change and really start to articulate the ways in which we can respond to the change, right? So this, I at one parish, I think it was back in 2002, we started doing these large gatherings, and it came out of a book, Collaborative Leader, from Sofield. It's on my shelf up there. Yeah.
Everybody, if you're watching the video, just pause, zoom in on Darrin, and it's somewhere.
It's back there.
Somewhere back there.
Yeah. Where he really spoke about this as a very significant. Now, the original thought process was, and we tried it, and the pastor almost killed himself, was that you would gather the ministry leaders, a few times a year to have their regular ministry meeting, plan a meeting. And the pastor that night would be able to go around and get into each of the meetings. Well, that didn't work. I mean, it just didn't work. So over time, I started to, tailor them so that we could do it together, and the pastor could kind of speak to his vision, could hear the ministry leaders, and they've been really effective. And that's really been my strategy. I have 3 pastors right now that I'm walking that process with.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm like taking notes like crazy. Like,
Same.
all
Same.
over
I had to
the
flip
place,
the paper
doing
over,
it
but
again.
yeah, but I had to fold it so I could keep the questions like right at the front.
Yeah. But
This is really good, Darrin. Really
yeah,
good stuff.
yeah, and you know what, I'm so glad I started working with this guy John from Parish Catalyst, because it's amazing how the Lord works. It's amazing how the Holy Spirit brings people together, right?
Yeah.
Because he has this process, this 18 months, he gathers cohorts of parishes 4 times in 18 months, really to do what I think, you know, he does at a larger scale what I do at a smaller scale.
Cool.
He brings the pastors and leadership through really a thought process to think strategically, and really start developing a pastoral plan for the parish. Where I'm coming in is, you know, once that plan is established or that they have that vision, I'm coming in to really help them solidify and move that forward, you know.
Yeah. Cool.
So I really believe I'm becoming a big believer that every parish needs this process, because that's what I've been doing at a very small level with a lot of the parishes and pastors in my area. And I think one of the mistakes, and I've made this mistake, one of the mistakes we make is not having at the end of every year either staff days of reflection and planning, ministry leaders reflection and planning, like at the end of the year gathering. I mean, at the very least, you should gather your ministry leaders for a Saturday, you know, like have mass, give them breakfast, and have some gathering that leads them through the ability to hear the pastor's vision, to talk about their ministry work, and to discover ways that they can collaborate, and for the pastor to hear what are some things we should be working on this coming year.
Yeah.
At the very least, that should be happening.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know that we probably are running on time, so we've gotten so much accomplished, though I feel like even in this short conversation. But I know that you have a one-word answer to the question I'm about to ask you, Darrin. So just for the sake of our listeners, one of the questions you guys that I was asking Darrin was like, once you what are some of the challenges that somebody needs to consider when they are working through these ministerial action plans?
Yeah. Well, you know, what are some of the challenges? I would shorten that and say, what's the challenge? Take the S out. And, you know, it's us.
Yeah.
We're the challenge. It's people. And some people don't like to hear that. You know, and we're the challenge because we don't like change. We like what we like, and change is hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, when we focus change in on the very thing that I am going to do, that creates the conflict. But if we focus change on the very thing that we're going to allow the Lord to do,
Yeah.
that opens up our hearts
Mm-hmm.
to transformation in a way that will help us to see how the Holy Spirit desires to work at our parishes in the very mission. And even that takes time, and it takes prayer. It takes the pursuit of discipleship in one's life. I hope I have the book on my table. Yeah, I read a great book this summer. It's called Called to Christian Joy and Maturity, Forming Missionary Disciples.
Who's that by?
It's by Gordon Demarius and Daniel Keaton. They are St. Paul Outreach. And what he does is he articulates. It's a great book. It's a great book. In fact, I'm writing some YouTube videos reflecting on the book and talking about things. But it's a great book. I just met with a pastor yesterday and I said, I'd like to get this for our pastoral council and have us read it. It really speaks to the process that we go through at growing as disciples and as community. So I would encourage a lot of people I would encourage everybody to pick up the book and really read it, because it really speaks to transformation. I mean, to keep it simple. So the challenge is us, the challenge really is us. And even when trying to create a plan, if creating the plan is challenging, like I had this past summer, I was having a few challenges trying to understand a pastor's vision, and it really boiled down to me, hearing and listening and finally having the humility to just say, I'm not quite understanding. Can you,
Mhm.
articulate a little bit more? And that was very helpful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What was the name of that book one more time?
Sure. Called to Christian Joy and Maturity, Forming Missionary Disciples by Gordon Demarius. It's
Awesome.
published by Word Among Us. Yeah, it's a great book.
All right. Well, we are out of time. We could just keep going on and listening to your stories, and it's humbling to know that a lot of times when we are in the midst of a challenge, that we have to reflect on ourselves and what is the challenge that we're bringing. What is the roadblock that we're bringing to the conversation? That's really hard for us. I mean, we're human. We think we're better than that, but we're not,
Yeah.
So thank you for that reminder, because I think that's something, at least I'm going to bring to prayer in some of the challenges I'm feeling at my parish. What is the roadblock that I might be bringing to this? What is the not positive challenge, because challenging can be good, but there's some challenges that, we bring to the table that are just roadblocks and taking us away from that mission. And so that's a really good reminder, Darrin. I really appreciate all that you brought to our conversation today before we started recording, during our podcast today. Thank you so much. We'll probably give you a call again, Darrin, because I just feel like there's so much depth to this, and there's so many different ways that we can go. And as leaders, we really do have a voice in this when sometimes we feel like we don't. Those who are the volunteer leaders of various ministries, that formation is really key. And I think that we forget about the formation because the tasks at hand feel so urgent. And the formation is not as urgent. So I think we're going to come back to that. Christy, I'm sure, is going to come up with some other great questions for you. But thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Darrin.
Well, thanks for having me, and I really just appreciate being here with you.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody. So this is the Catholic Leadership Network. We're talking about all those things that are behind the scenes that we don't really talk about out front. And today we are with Darrin Nelson, talking about mission and the gospel message and how to keep focused within our ministries. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.